Archbishop Desmond Tutu and His Holiness the Dalai Lama have survived more than 5 decades of exile and the soul-crushing violence of oppression. Despite the hardships they went through, they remain two of the most joyful people on the planet. In April 2015, to celebrate His Holiness's 80th birthday and to create what they hoped would be a gift for others, Archbishop Tutu traveled to the Dalai Lama's home in Dharamsala, India. They traded intimate stories, shared their spiritual practices, and teased each other continually. They looked back on the experiences they had from their long lives to answer a single burning question: how do we find joy despite life's inevitable suffering? By the end of a week filled with laughter and insight, these two spiritual giants had stared into the abyss and despair of our time and revealed how to live a life brimming with joy. Here are the top 7 lessons from the Book of Joy by Desmond Tutu and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Lesson 1. Accept that all life involves suffering. We generally have the assumption that it is possible to remove all the sources of suffering in life, that happiness is the endpoint of success, that if we just do the right things and work hard, we could spend our lives happy. However, as pointed out by philosopher Martin Heidegger, the act itself of being born is traumatic. The Book of Joy begins with a distinctly Buddhist sentiment that all life involves suffering and that it is undesirable to avoid any suffering. Joy cannot truly be appreciated or understood without ever experiencing any suffering. Further, suffering helps one to understand the importance of empathy because it allows one to understand how others have suffered. And thus, the first thing Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama agree upon is that when we experience suffering, we must learn to shift our focus away from ourselves and onto others. The second agreement the two spiritual leaders come to is on the difference between happiness and joy. Happiness, according to both of them, is a fleeting emotion, whereas joy is a lasting state of existence. Lesson 2. Choose to cope with suffering. The first step is to understand that frustrations and fears are facets of the mind, not of reality. As such, you can choose to not let them control your life, and you can even find joy in any situation if you wish to. We can't control many or maybe even most of the things that will cause suffering in our lives. Losing loved ones, illnesses, disasters, economic downturns, they'll inevitably happen to us regardless of what we do. But the one thing we have control of is how we choose to react when faced with these events. Though it is true that we are not in control of events that cause suffering, we can definitely contribute to how little or how much those events affect our happiness. Lesson 3. Limit your expectations. A significant element of Buddhist philosophy is that desires and expectations lead to suffering. We are conditioned from a very young age to expect a lot of our lives and ourselves, to always pursue a big dream and a better life. And while that can be a good motivator, it can also lead to immense fear, anger, uncertainty, and disappointment. The fear of failing to achieve these goals can be paralyzing, and in turn lead to anger and bitterness. The way to free yourself from the toxic poison of anger is to practice compassion. Lesson 4. Combat loneliness. The authors pointed out that when you feel lonely, you should always have in mind that all of us are the same, that we're all members of the same human family. To combat loneliness, one must embrace the connection between all humans. The authors then recount a study conducted at Columbia University showing that people who focused on using plural pronouns like us and we more than singular pronouns like me and I had significantly lower rates of heart attacks than the latter. Lesson 5. Accept death and near-death experiences. It's a widely known phenomenon that people who have encountered near-death experiences often gain a deeper appreciation for their lives. It makes sense. It's often only after you almost lose something that you truly see how valuable it really is and stop taking it for granted. People with terminal illness often report their final months as being happier than any other time in their lives, and many of those that make miraculous recoveries become paradoxically depressed. It seems that the act of acknowledging how fleeting life truly is and accepting the inevitability of death are key elements of achieving lasting joy. Lesson 6. Learn about perspective and humility. Perspective and humility always go hand in hand. When you're dealing with sadness or stress, keeping the big picture in mind and realizing how insignificant the thing you're dealing with actually is can be a very powerful coping mechanism. By remembering that your problems aren't unique to you, that there's something a lot of people deal with every day, could help you feel like you're not alone. Lesson 7. Forgive more often. People often make the mistake of acting as though because there are others that are suffering far worse than them, they're not allowed to feel sad. This can't be further from the truth, even though there's always someone that has it worse. But that doesn't discount what you're going through. The knowledge that others have it worse than you should instead be used as a tool. Forgiveness is an inverse of gratitude. It is the understanding that holding on to anger doesn't solve anything. It doesn't hurt anyone but you. In conclusion, the Book of Joy is a poignant and heartwarming account of week-long conversation between the world-renowned spiritual leaders, Nobel Peace Prize laureates His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Have you ever found joy after going through suffering? Let us know in the comments section. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on my new content. You can also get a free copy of the audiobook by clicking the link in the description. Until next time.